everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am back with another video, and this time I'll be doing a fill. So of course, just like any other time, the first thing that we do is just go in with my extra coarse safety drill bit by Pana, and we're just simply removing that gel polish. Of course, if you use regular nail polish, then you can just remove the nail polish with acetone and a cotton ball. But again, we're using an extra coarse drill bit by Pana. Make sure that if you're using a coarse or extra coarse drill bit, that it is a safety one, because you want to make sure that you don't cut your clients. And what it means to be a safety, it just means that the top of the drill bit is actually rounded instead of flat, so if you get really close to the skin, you won't cut them. And the drill that I'm using today is my Melody Susie nail drill, which is the rechargeable one. If you guys seen my previous video, I am reviewing the Melody Susie drill to see, how many sets I can do with it before I have to recharge it. So far I've been using it all week, and I do about 4 people a day, so it's been doing really good. But again, we're just removing the gel polish from all of the nails, and then we can move on to the next step. Alrighty, so now we're going to go in and just push back the cuticles. Remember that this step just helps to expose the new growth and also helps with reducing lifting. So you want to make sure that you do not skip this step at all. And you can use any type of cuticle pusher, whether it's a plastic one, whether it's a disposable one, whether it's a metal one, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that you push back those cuticles. After that, we're going to go in with a 180 sanding band, and we're just removing the shine from the natural nail. And remember that this step is really important, because our nails produce a lot of natural oils, and if you just put the acrylic over our shiny nail, most likely your acrylic is going to lift. So make sure that again you remove the shine from the natural nail. And the way to know if you've done this properly is just by looking at the nail and just looking to see if there's any shiny spots on the nail, and if there is, then just go back in and file, wherever you need to. But again, this is a 180 sanding band. And then of course, you know, if you don't feel comfortable using a drill, you could always go in with a regular hand file and it will get the job done as well. Just make sure that you get really close to that cuticle area because that's where the lifting will start at. Alrighty, so now I just dust the nails off and then I'm going to go in with the primer. So I'm going to be using the Young Nail Protein Bond. We're only applying it on the natural nail. Remember that you don't want to skip this step because that's what's going to help the acrylic adhere to your nail. So again, we're applying the primer to the natural nail. After this, we're going to go ahead and apply the acrylic. So as you can see, she already had that nut color on her nails and I'm just filling it in with that same color. And actually, as you guys know, my previous nut color or off-white color, whatever you want to call it, that I actually mixed it myself. It was just a mixture of clear, white, and glow-in-the-dark powder, and I just mixed it all together and I came up with that color. And then of course, you know, if it was too white, I would add more clear. If it was too translucent, then I would add more white, whatever I had to do. But this time I actually am using the Frosted Pink by Mia Secret, and it looks just like that nut color that people like. So I'll be sure to leave the link down below to that one. I actually got this one from Nail Supply Glamour when I was in Dallas, and I'm just not using it. And then I also added some glow-in-the-dark powder. You can just buy your glow-in-the-dark powder from Amazon, and then just pour some of it into your acrylic and just mix it up really good. That way your acrylic will glow, because that same glow-in-the-dark powder is that same like whitish or off-white color, so it blends in really well. So again, this acrylic is in the color Frosted Pink by Mia Secret, and then of course, since it is a colored acrylic, we have to go in and encapsulate that with either clear or, of course, as you guys know, I use the Mia Secret Pink because it's really translucent, but whatever you prefer. And we're doing one bead closer to the cuticle area, patting it down, brushing it down towards the tip, and then of course, you know, if you need a little bit more somewhere else, then feel free to add more. And then we just encapsulate the nail with the Mia Secret Pink. And then of course, the brush that I'm using today is my Alpha brush in the number 10, and it's an oval shape, so I'll be sure to leave the link down below. As you guys know, they're not doing a promo code anymore, but you know, you can still check their brushes out because when you go on their website, they still offer the 10% off once you sign up with your email for different promotions. So again, I'll be sure to leave that link down below. And then whenever it comes to choosing a brush, I always recommend that people start off with a smaller brush, just because, you know, when you're starting up, it's hard to get, you know, the right size bead, or you might apply too much acrylic, because usually that's what happens. People add too much acrylic. But if you use a smaller brush, it's going to be harder to pick up, you know, a lot of acrylic. So that's going to help with, you know, not having really thick nails. So again, I would suggest using a smaller brush, maybe a number 9 or 10, and then working your way up to a bigger brush. Now, I decided that I just wanted to stick to a number 10 because, you know, that's what I feel comfortable with. There's people out there that use a number 16, a number 20, because that's probably what they learned with. But whatever you feel comfortable with, you know, is good. Just as long as you can work with it and you're not working, you know, harder than you should. But again, we just apply that bead closer to the cuticle area, pat it down, and remember that when you place it down, just place it as close to the cuticle area as you can, but making sure that you don't place it like on the actual cuticle. And then when you pat it down, it's basically spreading the acrylic as close as it can to the cuticle area. And of course, if it gets on the skin, just go in with the very tip of your brush and just clean around that cuticle area, and then just of course brushing it down towards the tip. And if you need to add a little bit more, that's fine as well. We're done with that hand, and we're going to do the exact same thing on this one. So same thing, placing that bead closer to the cuticle area, patting it down and brushing it down towards the tip. Remember that when you're brushing it down towards the tip, you're very, very gentle. You don't want to brush down too hard because you want most of that product to stay at that apex area, which is like right in the middle but closer to the cuticle area. And then you're basically just blending the rest right in the middle. That way it's not just a big hump where you place that one bead. You want it to be like really nice and smooth. And then of course cleaning around the cuticle area, and then just going in and applying another bead of either clear or my Mia Secret Pink to just encapsulate that colored acrylic. Remember that if you don't encapsulate your color acrylics, you will be able to see patches whenever you come back and file, because you're going to be filing off that color acrylic. So it's really important that you encapsulate it. Same thing when you're doing glitters or when you're doing, you know, anything inside the nail, you have to make sure that you encapsulate with the clear or, you know, whatever you want to use.
I don't deny there's some strange evolutionary process going on, but mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
Alrighty, so we're finishing off this hand. So again, I used the Mia Secret Frosted Pink acrylic, which is actually pretty white instead of pink. So I would recommend it if you're looking for that off-white or nut color, which is what people call it. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and reshape the nails. So as you can see, we already have that coffin shape. So of course, we just have to go back in and redefine that shape. And same thing as always, we're filing the sides at a 45-degree angle and filing the free edge at a 90-degree angle to make sure that they're super straight. Make sure that you're holding your finger really good. And then also when you're filing the free edge at a 90-degree angle, it helps if you file vertically instead of horizontally. I just feel like you can get it super straight when you file this way.
I don't deny there's some strange evolutionary process going on, but mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
Okay, so after we finish reshaping the nails, I'm going to go in with the fine drill bit. Remember that when we're doing this, we're trying to get as close as we can to that cuticle area to make sure that we seal that acrylic around there. We want to make sure that there's no gaps in between the acrylic and the natural nail, because if not, we will get lifting. So again, start from the right side over to the left side, just going back and forth until you're able to see where the cuticle is, where the natural nail is, and where the acrylic is. That way we know that we're not going to get lifting. However, sometimes, it's like no matter how much you do it, you still get lifting. But you want to make sure that, of course, you do kind of like a process of elimination to make sure that, if I'm following good, then maybe I'm not prepping the nail correctly. Maybe I'm applying the tips too big. It could be a number of things. So you just kind of have to figure out what you're doing wrong, and then you can fix the problem. But it is going to take a little bit to finally prevent the lifting, because I think it's just kind of like a learning process, and I think everyone goes through that phase where they can't get rid of the lifting. But anyways, again, we're going from the right side over to the left side, just going back and forth, and then of course just following the rest of the nail to make sure that it's all nice and smooth.
I don't deny there's some strange evolutionary process going on, but mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
After we finish filing all of the nails, we're going to go in with the buffer. Remember, this is just going to get rid of any of the scratches left on the nails from the e-file or the hand file. So make sure that you buff them really, really good, because if not, you will be able to see those scratches through your polish. And I cannot tell you guys how many times I've had people messaging me telling me that, you're able to see they're able to see scratches through their polish, and then I'm like, did you buff the nails? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, that's the problem. You have to make sure that you buff those nails really, really good. And then even when you file them, just fill on the nail with your thumb to make sure that it's really smooth. And then if it still feels a little bit rough, then of course just go in and just buff it a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm just going in with an alcohol wipe, and I'm just wiping off those nails, or you can have your client go wash their hands. After that, we can apply the polish. So for this hand, I'm going to be applying the white, which is the Perfect White by Madam Glam. As always, I do have a promo code for them, so I'll be sure to leave that down in the description. Again, that is the color Perfect White by Madam Glam. For the rest of the nails, I'm going to be using the Fuchsia Touch Gel Polish by D&D. As always, I'll be sure to leave that link as well in the description.
I don't won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
Okay, so after we finish applying the polish, I'm going to go in with some iridescent glitter, and I'm just going to pour that over the top of this ring finger. I'm just using that same cuticle pusher that I used at the beginning to pick up the glitter, and just placing it over the top of the nail while that gel polish is still wet. And then with the tip of my finger, I'm just kind of patting that glitter in. So we're going to do the same thing on the other hand while that first hand cures for 30 seconds. And we're just going to apply that white on the index finger, and we're going to switch it up a little bit, but we're still doing the same design, just different fingers. Okay, so same thing for this hand. We're going to go ahead and do the glitter over the top of the nail. So we're just sprinkling that glitter over the top with that cuticle pusher. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and just tap the excess glitter off. And then we're just going to gently tap that glitter into that gel polish. Remember, do the glitter before you cure the nail. That way, the glitter kind of sinks into that gel polish. After that, we're going to go ahead and do a second coat on all of the nails. And then we'll move on to the next color.
I don't deny there's some strange evolutionary process going on, but mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
I finished doing a second coat, so now we're going to be doing a colorful marble on the middle finger. So the first color that I'm using is in the color Dutch Orange by D&D. I'm also going to be using Petersburg Blue, which is also by D&D, Lemon Juice by D&D, and the same Fuchsia Touch. Okay, so for the marble nail, as you can see, what I'm doing is I just place the colors on the nail, and then I'm just dabbing them with the little brush. I dip my brush into a little dipping dish with acetone and just wipe it off a little bit to where it's damp but not soaking wet. And then again, I just dab those colors. Make sure that you clean your brush off in between each color. So do the blue, wipe your brush off, do the yellow, wipe it off. You know, that way the colors don't just mix together. So again, we just apply the colors, you know, just add a little bit more if you need to, and that's it. Alrighty, so now I'm going to go in with the D&D gel top coat, and we're going to go ahead and just apply it on the index finger, and then I'm going to use some SS6. I'm going to pick them up with my wax pencil, and we're just going to do a few around the whole nail, or just, you know, randomly on the nail. And then after that, I'm going to go in with some caviar. So I'm using that same cuticle pusher, picking up the caviar and just sprinkling it over the top of the nail, making sure that I turn my client's finger over to the sides. That way, you know, we get a full coverage. After this, you know, if any little caviar is hanging off the nail, I'm going to go ahead and just use the tip of my finger to kind of push them up a little bit before we cure the nail. Again, make sure that you get a really good coverage. That way you don't have any gaps in between the caviar. After this, we're going to go ahead and cure this nail this hand for 60 seconds. And then also we're going to go ahead and apply the top coat on the rest of the nails.
But mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
Alrighty, so again, we're going to go ahead and cure this hand for 60 seconds. And then since I already have the caviar out, I'm going to go ahead and do the caviar nail on this hand. So same thing, we apply the IBD gel top coat, we apply the SS6 just randomly on the nail, and then we apply the caviar over the top of the nail, making sure that we get a full coverage. And then we're going to go ahead and also do the marble nail on this hand, and of course just apply the top coat. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cure that hand for 60 seconds, and we're going to go back to that first hand, and I'm just going to gently reshape that nail with the caviar and the glitter, because a lot of the time you will get those rough edges. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and apply a top coat. You don't have to apply a top coat on the glitter nail. I just like to be safe, just because I feel like I always tell people glitter nails are like a glitter shirt. You know, it's going to stay on there, but it's going to start rubbing off eventually. So I'd rather just go ahead and do a top coat. That way, you know, it kind of takes away a little bit from the glitter, but it's still pretty shiny and, you know, it lasts. So we're doing the same thing on both hands, making sure we dust them off and then applying the top coat on those as well.
The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
Alrighty y'all, so here is the final look. As you can see, they turned out really pretty, and I love that marble and that pink together. So as always, I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at GetNailDirty2, and I'll see you guys next time.